The question is, what was Jesus Christ's religion when he was a human being? Do you care to know the answer? If yes, then listen to God's message below for everyone to realize the truth. Narciso Olalo, October 13, 2014. The message of God. I was traveling in my sleep and was taking the exam with other people, but I was wondering why I had two test papers in my hand intended for my other two seatmates. I saw Jesus Christ roaming around the people who were taking the examination. I was wondering why when he was beside me, he just walked past by me including my two test papers. I looked at him with my eyes communicating with him and wondering why he did not look at my test papers answer, and he said, "Your answers are all correct, including the two papers you are holding, the Word of God." I got up and looked around, but it was quite dim where the exam took place, so I asked myself how they can answer the questions when in fact they could not even see the test paper. I heard God's voice from a distance to everyone, ordinary man or priest and pastor. I have a question to ask. What was Jesus Christ's religion when he was a human being? Answer this and find which page you read it. The word of Jesus Christ then. I woke up. Now, this is for everyone. Answer God's question and explain what God was trying to imply. Narciso Olalo's answer to the question. Now it is all up to you how close your answers to mine. According to my belief, ever since before and until now that God is already using me, this is the right faith that people should adhere to. If you read everything about my test papers, God said that my faith is right, and this is the key to enter God's kingdom. Those two men whose test papers were with me, God did not look at their test papers, because they believed God's messages written on my wall. The dim place where the exam took place, these are the wrong beliefs that are not pleasing to God. You cannot have the right answers if you base it on wrong beliefs and practices. No matter how much a person devotes his time to church, there is no way his beliefs be right because it was wrong in the first place following the wrong teachings of the founders of the church. According to my belief, Jesus Christ and God the Father is one, and it is already written on my wall. In the beginning, God created everything with a purpose, but people didn't have the clue how to use them properly. He witnessed people doing unpleasant and evil things, and they didn't believe in God's existence. Because of this, God decided that he needed to exist as a human being. Before God came known to mankind, they had to choose a rich and powerful man to rule them, such as kings. They had an entitlement on whatever they wanted to do. People became violent, and love no longer existed. Time went by and God saw a woman who was free of sins, pure, rightful, and who believed that God existed in her life, and nobody taught her about this belief. She was Mary, and God decided to exist as a human being, so that people would believe that there truly was God. God thought it was about time. Mary heard his voice, and she got pregnant without being used by a man. God thought it was about time to exist as a human being because people were full of sins, committed all kinds of evil deeds. Mary gave birth to a baby boy, and God's Spirit entered the boy's body. The boy was Jesus Christ. He grew up and eventually introduced himself to people that he was different so that people would do the same thing. He healed and cured the sick people, and he also preached. He healed the sick people so that they would believe that an ordinary man could not have done this without power. Because of this, people believed he was God. The kings got furious at Jesus Christ because people believed him, so the kings ordered his men to have him killed. As a symbol that a man's life ends, he got himself captured by the king's men when there was already enough evidence. People believed God was alive, and that there was God in a man's life. He didn't use his power when he was tortured by the king's men to show them that he was being fair to mankind, and he wanted to show himself as a good example that he risked his own life defenseless because of his love to all his creations. He died on the cross, but prior to his death, he asked God the Father to forgive them because they didn't know what they had done. This means forgiveness to one another and let love reign, and that was the main reason why he became a man. After his death, he was buried and came to life again. Ever since he was born, you can never find priests or pastors, or read it in the Bible. He preached anywhere, and it happened that he preached inside the temple, and people considered it as a church. He was still young when they already called him Jesus, It was not during the time he was baptized during which he was already older when he was baptized with water to make it known to people that water is holy because all that he created came from it, that people must respect and take good care of it together with everything else that he created. He healed the sick anywhere he went without using any religion, but why religion existed in various classification? This proves that religions are established by mankind, but why they stated it was originated from God. Because of this, they commit a sin. But it is also being taught that God doesn't like lies, but what they are doing is irony in the broadest sense. Because of these teachings, people who believed in them also committed a sin. After Jesus died on the cross, why nobody offered prayers, and they did not render mass for him? Why is it that today that if a person died, they prayed for the deceased? Where do you think these practices came from? It is obvious that it is done by a person. Why do you think now if a person dies, they offered mass? This is again obvious that it is also done by a human being. When Jesus Christ was preaching, he did not tell the people that if a person dies, a prayer mass must be offered to the deceased. This is again obvious that this kind of practice is done by a person. Jesus also did not mention that when a person dies, there is a place called purgatory, and that the deceased had 40 days to prepare himself, and must be prayed over. This is again obvious that this kind of practice was made by a person only. Jesus preached without collecting money when in fact during that time people already had money, and he never asked for something in return from the people. Why is it that everything the church does involving money? This clearly proves that it is only done by a person. In other words, everything the churches do is not pleasing to God, and for this isn't this a bunch of lies? What I am doing now is not different from what he did before. He warns the people. To discover the truth, please visit Narciso Olalo's website https://follower.narcisula.wixsite.com/narcisoolalo. https://follower.narcisula.wixsite.com/narcisoolalo. Thank you for your time.